Hello, welcome to the second episode of Talking Football. I'm your host, Adam Wooley, alongside Coach Jeff Glynn of the Mighty Lanphier Rams. And this week's episode is going to revolve around a little bit about what happened last week, in addition to an upcoming preview of the New Haven game, which is happening tonight. Tomorrow night. We also want to get into some college football talk and Jim Harbaugh and I want to know whether or not you think he should be on the hot seat. And also preview the upcoming NFL games with the Lions coming on. But first, let's start it off close to home. Talk about a little bit of the recap of the Lions Cruise game. I did have the opportunity to come out and watch you guys, but walk us through your perspective and what you guys talked about all week.
Yeah, it was a disappointing one. You know, we left a lot of things out there. I'll just say that. Didn't play our brand of football, which really was, I think, the most frustrating thing. We let ourselves drop down to the level of opponent between our actual opponent and maybe a 12th member of the field, and to put it metaphorically. So we allowed outside factors kind of affect us, and you never want to see that. And unfortunately, turnovers was reared its ugly head again, and some untimely penalties, whether they were penalties by the law or not.
Right.
That definitely affected us, but our guys got to be able to respond to that. You see a lot of times, I believe, on about 4 or 5 different instances on drives where a penalty literally killed our drive.
Yeah.
And Noah Mazzone, he's the OC for Texas A&M. Arizona State. Has Arizona. We'll get there eventually. He's been there the last 3 years. He has this rule. It's the 12% rule, and it should be sacks, penalties that end drives, turnovers, and drops should be about 12% of your total plays. On Thursday night, it was about 27%. Yeah. So not a good percentage. There's a lot of positives, though. I mean, we had 268 yards rushing, which was huge, something we didn't have the week prior. Mr. Chargo threw pretty well again today, or on Thursday. He had about 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Want to limit his interceptions, but overall he played pretty well. Defensively, we were so much better. There was little minor things, 4 guys to the ball instead of 8, 9, 10, 11. And in the game of football, unfortunately, that's not a good thing. Right. And so we beat ourselves. I'll put it this way. We're a 2-2 football team. We've got 2 losses, but we've also lost twice to ourselves.
Yeah.
Or we beat ourselves twice. So hopefully we can beat someone else.
When you talk about beating oneself, like in the game, right? Obviously, those come down to like some mental mistakes. But also, we've talked about this in the prior episode. How much of that can you attribute to youth and inexperience? How much does that play a factor? Because I know there were some penalties taken by some younger players, and then also some costly turnovers.
Yeah, and it's huge. It's big. I mean, age it's more than just a number in all reality. But at the same time, we're not going to let our guys have that mindset. If they start letting them have that mindset, then they're going to use that as a scapegoat, as an excuse, and say, "Well, I'm, 15 years old." No, you're, a varsity starter. Yeah. We have 6 sophomores starting. We're fine with that,
right?
Because they're all good,
right,
and they're going to be good players moving forward. So we just have to work through it, and the kids got to understand they got to grow up faster than normal and understand the bigger picture on a day-to-day basis when it comes to that, and not let it be an excuse, and understand that age is just a number at the same time.
And I'm going to segue out of that, into no excuses, bigger picture. Let's slide into some of the things that happened in the college game this week, because I think there's a lot that we could talk about that will shift down to what you're mentioning right now. Let's talk about the Michigan-Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
All right, so no excuses, bigger picture type of a deal here. Right. One of the big things, and I was serious about that, from your perspective, you're sitting in the head coaching seat right now. Jim Harbaugh, obviously, in the same boat. Yeah. Should he be on the hot seat right now? I mean, has there been something that you've seen from him and his group? Because I'll tell you my perspective on that. I think the quarterback play should be better. I think the offensive line play should be better, and I think that falls a little bit into his hands, a little bit of his responsibility. But what are your thoughts on what you saw?
I think honestly the biggest thing that I saw personally was there's a lack of identity on offense, which for a quarterback puts him in a very difficult position. Shea Patterson, like I said last week, is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. And what people don't see is the fact that he was 20 for 30, 200-something yards, I think a touchdown and a pick,
Yep.
and a costly fumble. But at the end of the game, you're trying to make a play.
Right.
Stuff's going to happen. And when you got to make plays, there's a higher likelihood of fumbles
Something bad happening. Yeah,
and quite
exactly.
frankly, you can't help, if you're trying to push around the pocket or escape the pocket and you got backside pressure, there's an even higher likelihood.
And that's something that's got to be addressed.
Without a doubt. The O-line is the biggest issue in my eyes. I think defensively, the first half, it was brutal. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame made plays, but Michigan, I don't know if you could see at the halftime adjustments on what they did defensively, how they put so much more pressure on Wimbush that it made things a lot more difficult for them offensively, where they were almost non-existent.
Yeah, they played almost flawlessly in the second half.
And in the second half offensively for Michigan, they kind of got into a groove, but at the same time, there is no identity. Michigan is historically a power football, hardball, power football, pro-style offense, which is fine. Well, now they have a quarterback that accents that type of level, or different type of level of football, of the spread, the modern day offense, which is great, but you have to make a decision.
Yeah, and how are we going to get there?
Exactly,
Yeah.
And that's where the issue is right now. They don't have an identity. They don't know who they want to be, and that's the tough part. If they don't figure that out, it's going to be a rough season. But for people dogging on Shea Patterson and all, like I said, guy had a 66% completion percentage.
So to boil the question down when it comes to it, does that identity crisis then fall back onto the head coach to say, this is who we are, this is what we're all about? And then he has to adapt, and then Patterson, a kid like Patterson's going to have to adapt his game?
In a sense, it's here or there, because and you got to look at it in two ways. Either A, you're going to adjust to your players, or make the players adjust to you.
Yeah.
And there's rhyme and reasons for each side, and I see the arguments on both sides. So Harbaugh has to make that decision on whether we're going to make this guy fit our system, or we're going to fit our system to this guy.
Gotcha.
And that's the biggest thing. I mean, last year we were kind of battling that. Did we have the personnel for what we're running? No, we didn't. But we had players that were willing to work and players that were good enough to where we could roll with this system, get it implemented, and then we knew going down the line, that we could. Right. And so we did a little bit of the opposite. We made guys fit our scheme, but at the same time, we still adjusted our scheme enough to fit our personnel.
Well, then let's keep rolling with these transitions, because
Yes,
we
sir.
talk about like fitting personnel to the type of philosophy, and let's shift that down into the Lions. Lions are going to be opening up this week.
Yes, sir.
Talking about the New England way, obviously built on championships. The preseason was not kind to the Lions at all. They did not show a whole lot. Could be by design. If you're looking at into your crystal ball, what do you see this year for these guys? I mean, you've been a student enough of the game to know like what you see and what you and what you're going to get. And in this division, when you add a guy like Khalil Mack to the Bears, Aaron Rodgers back to the Packers, what does that bode for the Lions?
I don't know if it really changes a whole lot. I mean, at the same sense, you still got a brand new system implementing in Chicago. Nagy did a great job in Kansas City. He's an offensive genius, and he brought in Mark Helfrich from Oregon. But we all know how the Chip Kelly system worked in college.
Yeah.
I think that had to do more with the man than the system, but that's my opinion. You still got a young quarterback that's unproven in Mitchell Trubisky. In all reality, Chicago's offensive weapons, outside of Burton, they don't have a single receiver over 6 foot or 6'1".
Right.
So there's nobody that's going to be able to stretch the field vertically in the sense of the red zone by being able to literally vertically. That's going to be a problem. They don't have a red zone target. Defensively, yes, they're phenomenal. Minnesota, in my opinion, it's kind of, we'll see. And Green Bay, it's one sprained ankle away from a 3-game stretch.
And a healthy quarterback that's going to win 13 games.
Right, exactly. So that's the tough part.
Yeah.
But I think the exciting part for the Lions is the number 9 still there.
Right.
And as much as people want to bag on him, there's not a dude that means more to his team outside of maybe Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
He gives them an opportunity to win every single week. And when you have a quarterback that does that, and you have a coach that knows what he's doing, and an offensive coordinator that I believe has made the biggest impact on Stafford's entire career. Mm-hmm. You look at his numbers since Cooter's taken over, Stafford's numbers have doubled in everything. I mean, just, so I think that's going to be the biggest key. As long as you got number 9, you got more experience, wide receiver core this year. Pettigrew won't be dropping balls this year, or not Pettigrew, Ebron won't be dropping balls this year. One and the same, they both drop balls. Lions will be able to be competitive. I'm excited for them. I'm a lot higher on these guys than a lot of people.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a more interesting division, that's for sure. A tougher division with all those teams naming. I don't even know how I left Minnesota out of there, but whatever.
Right.
The final wrap up for today and thing that I want to get to is obviously tomorrow's New Haven.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's a big game for you, opening up on the new field.
Yes,
so
sir.
home opener. A chance to right the ship. What are we looking at? What do we see as the biggest threat, the biggest challenge from New Haven? And then what do you guys bring to the table tomorrow to get us excited about a win here for us?
The biggest threat is us. I mean, we showed them a little bit of film. We gave them a base look as far as, hey, this is what they're going to do offensively. This is what they're going to do defensively. And I cut it off, and I went right back to the Lance Cruz film. And are we dwelling on that? No. Absolutely not. But what I can tell you this is that we're focusing on the mistakes that we've made, correcting the interceptions. Why did we throw those interceptions? One was on me. The pick right before halftime, that was on me. That's not on our quarterback. Highlighting when we have to make a mistake or when we make a mistake, how are we going to respond to that? It's 1st and 15. Now how are we going to respond? Is that drive over, or is it the fact that we've had 2 400-yard plus games on offense that's going to get us back into it?
And knowing it's attack, and tempo.
Right. And we ran 73 offensive plays. In college football, the top 10 in the country run 80 and above.
Right.
So in a 12-minute quarter, we're running as many plays as majority of the college football landscape.
And that's where you want to be.
Exactly. And we want to push the tempo. We want to be physical. But we are focusing on ourselves. I don't care what New Haven has, what they don't have. We're worried about the team in blue, and if we do that, we're going to be just fine.
Awesome.
At that, we are going to be just fine, and I'm excited for the home opener.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. As always, love talking football with you. Everybody else, don't forget that tomorrow is the tailgate party before the game. Everybody will be out there in the parking lot getting all fired up with the pep rally and everything else. And then it's game time at 7 p.m. is the kickoff tomorrow out there at Borovic Field on the brand new AstroTurf. So get out there. This has been this episode of Talking Football. Coach Glynn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Good luck. Go get them and go Rams.